And this is now the part 3 of the chapter 3, and we are now going to talk about the supply side of the market analysis. So in the demand side, we explained the behavioral function of the households, whereas here we are talking about the firms or factories. So firms are the one who build factories, hiring workers, buying raw or processed materials, because they think that they can actually make good, they can sell it and earn more revenue than the amount they cost. So they are basically look at their profit. If you wish, I can explain it here that a firm, as we drew it in the linear flow diagram, are basically a firm. They are producing certain commodities. So this is quantity supply of commodity X. And how do they make a decision about it? It depends on several factors. Number one is maybe the factors of production they are using. So they may actually pay for the labor and the price of labor, often called wage. The capital, the machines and equipments they buy, they have to pay. The price of capital is called interest, because it's as if they are borrowing the money to buy that machines which they're going to be used for longer periods, and then they have to pay it back by installment, the principal plus additional. So additional cost is called the cost of borrowing is called interest. And the land or raw materials, basically it's called price of land or rent. Maybe the processed product also, materials, processed price of materials. So this one, if it is processed, it's called intermediate. Later in other chapters, we need to understand this. So if we multiplied them by their magnitude, which has been hired, this is called total cost. And they expect to sell it at the price of X, the price of same commodities. Of course, they are competing with the price of other commodities similar, like if the X is Samsung Galaxy, and here we have price of so they are basically looking at the price of other commodities. Similar commodities may affect their decision also. So in microeconomics it's going to be explained more, but at this stage the product of the quantity supplied multiplied by this is their total revenue, and the profit is total revenue minus total cost, and this is going to be taken by the entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs are paying how much they hires different factors of production, land, labor, capital, or processed or raw materials, etc. And they also, entrepreneurs, decide which technology to adopt. So the technology also, should they go fully automated or should they go with hiring more labor? So fully automated is that more machines. Manual or labor intensive is hiring more of workers. Depending on their prices, they may go differently. And sometimes they go for the fully automated because the labor is hard to handle, and may expose them to risk. However, even the capital intensive is also have its own risks, because if they cannot sell it, even if it makes it cheaper. So the technology factor is decided by the entrepreneur, and how many physical amount of land, labor, capital to be used, and these are given. These are given. So they are in the input markets is determined, and so the supply function, quantity supplied of commodity X, is going to be a function of course, price of X. If this is increasing, this is going to change, and then anything related to the cost, be it quantities of these or the prices, so we call it the input costs. You can name it wage, interest, rent, price of materials, or labor, capital, land, and materials, the quantity. So all these are related to the cost of production, total cost, and then price of other commodities, and also the technology. So I use tech as the technology, and of course there are several factors as well. So again, in the behavior of we only pick up two of them, price and this, and we assume that everything else is constant. And if we draw it, we are gonna get our price here and the quantity here, quantity supplied of X, price of X here, and it looks positively sloped. So this supply curve is positively sloped. It means that if the price goes up, you would be, as the entrepreneur, you decide to produce more and more, because everything else remains the same. It means these are constant, technology is constant, price of other things is constant, so you can make more revenue. If this side is increasing, so your profit is increasing, hence you are willing to produce more and more. So this positive slope is known as the law of supply. So law of supply, don't make any mistakes that this is ceteris paribus. Okay, and it means that the delta Q supply, quantity supply, over delta P, both of them X, is always and always positive. This is the meaning of the law of supply. So we would say that the quantity supply is the amount of a particular product that a firm would be willing and able to offer for sale. So this is about a willingness to sell, also willingness to sell, or a willingness to receive money. That's opposite of willingness to pay by the demand side. Here is the willingness to receive the money, because it's about the income for the firms. And we would have supply schedule, graph, and the equations. So law of supply here is reflected by the positive relationship between the price and quantity of goods and services. So if the price of this goods is increasing, the supplier of that commodity is willing to sell more, and increase in the market price, everything else remains the same, will lead to increase of the quantity supplied. And this is or vice versa, the negative one. So this is known as the supply curve, a graph illustrating how much product of a firm will sell at different prices, or what would be the sensitivity of the quantity supplied if the price of the item keep changing. For example, Clarence Brown is the supplier of soybeans. So if the price of soybeans are reflected here, as it's increasing, starts from 0 and it's explained like this. You might say that why this is that starting from here? The reason is that this is basically showing the marginal opportunity cost. Oh, that's a little bit marginal opportunity cost. It means that these are reflected, or this price is willingness to receive. And this is the minimum amount, because it's reflecting the marginal opportunity cost. If they can receive more, it would be good. Let's pick up quantity. Let's say if they want to produce this much, are they gonna sell it at this price? No, because it's really cost this much. The marginal cost for 10,000 is 1.7 per bushel, per unit, or per kilogram, whatever. But are they willing to sell it at this price? Of course they will, because see, it costs them. It really costs them this much. But if the buyer buys this much, so this gap is showing the surplus for the firms. The willingness to buy was opposite. It was the maximum amount which the buyers is willing to pay. Whereas here, the minimum amount which the suppliers is willing to charge or willing to receive. Okay, so this willingness to pay, willingness to receive, or willingness to sell is very important in understanding the demand and supply of the curve. And you would see again that it is positively sloped. After a certain while, it becomes flat, because no matter what, because of the limits of the capacity of the firms, they cannot produce more than this. If they want to produce, they have to make another factory. This is the scale limit. If you have one firm and no matter how many laborers you bring, the machines and equipments, some aspects of the firms are fixed. They cannot change. So basically, in the short run, at certain level, it's going to be maximum production, maximum capacity of the firm. Let's say this is a power generator and it's only one generator, and we basically use fuel, we feed the fuel, and this diesel is converted to generator. If it works 24 hours 7 days a week, it cannot produce more than certain amount. Same goes for the soybean factory, and that's how it works basically. So it's going to be at certain stage become vertical. And if this is the cheapest marginal cost, if only a little amount is being demanded, that is going to be the marginal cost. So at least it costs something. So it is if another firm can make it better with lower marginal cost, lower opportunity cost, it means that it's basically are selling its own resources, not making it process. But the marginal cost, the initial market marginal cost is always zero. So it has a positive, usually positive y-intercept or p-intercept. Okay, cost of production. These are the other factors. So we can basically now say that what would be the production. I rewrite it. Is a function of the price of X, and other we can say the input prices. Only keep the input prices, the wage, the interest, and the rent, and price of other, and the technology. Okay, so we already noticed that the relationship between the price of the commodity and its quantity supply is positive, law of supply. Everything else remains the same. But if the other things change, for instance, cost of production. Cost of production is related to the number of factors and available technologies. Okay, so the technology, if we can go with the cheaper technology, let's say modified seed for the soybeans, it basically can increase the yield. Or if we can hire cheaper workers bringing from Bangladesh, and basically we can increase our production. So they're causing a shift. It can be positive or negative, but usually improvement of the technology improvement is positively affecting. It's shifting to right. Shifting to the right of the supply is if the factors of production become cheaper, it's positively. If become more expensive, so it's negative. It means shifting to left, to the left. Okay, so this is called decrease. This is called an increase. Technological improvement is causing this. If they become cheaper, this may cause, and if input prices become, or technology is going to be it's going to be basically negatively degradation of the technology. Usually with the technology we are talking about a better technology. And in the other factors, let me also add the climate or weather or natural events. With the climate change, it's basically negative. With the weather, if again it's related to the climate. For example, if we have more rain, so it's going to be positive. If we have drought, it's going to be negative. If we have a natural disaster like a hurricane Katrina, then it damaged a lot of you may remember it, it's negative. An earthquake, it's negative. But well, monsoon season, again it's like rainfall. Good rainfall is positive. Things like that. So there are so many other factors which you can bring into account depending on the case by case. So when we are explaining this in a question, a multiple choice question, read it very carefully to make sure that you got it right. So again, the price related, it would be the price of the commodity, which certainly is going to be positive. The price of X, if this is quantity supplied of X. And cost of production, if the price required inputs, labor, capital, it goes the basically opposite. If it is cheaper, shift to the right. If it is more expensive, shift to the left. So basically it is positive or negative. And technology also, usually improvement of the technology, we refer it to the positive. And the price of other factors, if the it's perfect competitive, if the other things, the price of other things becomes more expensive, everybody buys from you. So it's actually a little bit controversial to talk about it. Usually factories don't go for the price war. Price war is a sort of self-harming, like what happened in the oil industry in the 1980s, 1986 to be precise, and in 2014, which Saudi Arabia and basically flooded the market with the oil, and then the price came to $40 something. So again, we have movement along versus shifts, which I already explained. Movement along is like you are moving from this point to this point to this point. And this is only when the price of the same commodity and everything else remains the same. Whereas the shift is referred to the changes of supply curve corresponding to the new relationship between quantity supplied and a good and the price of that good. So this shift is brought about by a change in the condition in the other factors. So this is an example of that the company was producing the soybeans farm initially had this situation. Now they have basically find a genetically modified seeds, and their production is increasing drastically. So this is with the help of the new technology, genetic engineering, the supply curve is shifting to the right. Yes, that's been explained. So again, like demand, we have individual supply curve and the market supply curve. Similar thing. So it is a horizontal summation. It's basically we have firm A and firm B and firm C. And if you want to determine the market, you pick up a price and see how much is willing to be sold by firm A. At that price, how much the firm B, and that price, how much the firm C. And then you top up them horizontal summation and you would get the supply curve. And again, you see that here we have the Q, and Q is often far larger than little q, quantity supplied. And also the delta Q over delta P is often smaller than the delta Q over delta P. So individual slope are sharper than the market supply curve, and these are so now we have everything for putting the forces of the demand and supply and discuss the market equilibrium. That's going to be another video. Thank you.